Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight for a special discussion on sports in the time of COVID and how COVID-19 has impacted athletics at UNH. I'm Mike McCann. I'm a professor of law, and I'm also director of the Sports and Entertainment Law Institute at UNH Franklin Pierce School of Law. I'm excited to be joined today by a great group of panelists who I'll introduce in just a moment. If you have any questions for our panelists throughout tonight's event, please type them in the Q&A box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. We'll see them there and we'll be able to answer your questions throughout the presentation. And with that, let's get started. I'd like to introduce our panel. First off, Coach Hillary Witt. Coach Witt has served as head coach of the Wildcats since 2014. She previously served as the assistant coach for the 2014 U.S. Olympic women's ice hockey team. She also played at Northeastern. And there's Grace Middleton. Grace is the class of 21. She's a forward from Midland, Michigan. And she's majoring in biology. And last year, she scored 8 goals, 14 assists, and 22 points. I think we got a little bit of feedback noise. Let's see here. Everyone could mute their.
He never speaks to me.
Everyone can hit mute. That would be great. Well, the crowd's excited, clearly, so that's a good sign. And Elsie Sasaki is also from the class of 21. She's a forward from Markham, Ontario, majoring in kinesiology and exercise science. She scored 4 goals, 6 assists, and 10 points for UNH last season. Then I'd like to introduce the football side of the conversation. Coach Sean McDonald, Coach Mac, of course, class of 78. He's now in his 21st season with the Wildcats. He has 98 career victories, the winningest active coach in the league, and number 3 all time. He's guided the Wildcats to 14 consecutive winning seasons and various playoff berths as well. Matt Massia from class of 21 is here. He's an offensive lineman from East Meadow, New York, majoring in history, played in 33 games for the Wildcats, and has started all of the games over the last 2 seasons. Last but not least, Carlos Washington, Jr., class of 22. Carlos is a running back from Fort Washington, Maryland. He's majoring in recreation management and policy, as well as program and event management. Scored 10 touchdowns the past 2 seasons and has rushed for almost 1,200 yards. So very impressive stats. But in addition, not only do we have great athletes, they are also great students. And we're very fortunate to have this panel with us tonight. So I'd like to begin with a question for our student athletes, and any of you can tackle it. So look, playing sports has been a major part of your college experience. You've been doing it for years. Sports is a way of building camaraderie, team skills. You've been playing sports season after season, year after year, since you were children. How has this year, the seasons being postponed, all of the disruptions, how has it affected your outlook? Has it been a big disruption to not play? I mean, obviously, you've had some activities, but it's not the same. How have you been able to keep your spirits up and stay close to teammates during this challenging time? Anyone want to take a shot at that?
I could go for it.
Thanks.
I think as student athletes, and you know, we talk about us as athletes right now, we all strive for competition. We all strive to keep getting better. And I think right now that's what we're searching for. And not having competition, I think we got to find it in other ways. Like I'm finding it back home through coaching and living through my players and their games. I think academically is one way we strive for success. And I think right now we are just searching for that competitive nature that we are all born with.
Yeah. Other views? Carlos or Elsie, Grace, any other feedback on that? Carlos?
Yeah, I agree with Mash. It's definitely being a competitive person and just playing a competitive sport is definitely a lot different not being in a competitive mode right now. But we're getting through it. Just got to take it step by step. We've been doing the right things to take it step by step to advance to the, where we want to play. But right now it's just, baby steps.
Cool. And have you all been able to stay in touch with teammates and just how you're used to seeing them every day, right? Now, maybe not as much. Grace.
Yeah, so over the quarantine period, we had a lot of team Zoom calls to stay in touch and kind of, just touch base on everything going on and have answer any questions that, we may be having. So that was really nice to be able to see everyone's face despite the distance. So
That's good. Great. So let's now talk to the coaches for a moment. The pandemic has, of course, led to a great deal of discussion about the dangers of COVID-19 for college athletes, but also you might argue it's a little bit scarier for those of us who are older than 30, 40, keep going, right? The older you get, it's been thought to be a little bit more dangerous. How do we deal with that risk? I mean, when do you all feel safe as the coaches to restart sports? It's certainly a consideration for the health and safety of the student athletes, but what about yourselves? What about your assistant coaches, all of the staff? How does that factor into your thinking about the topic? Coach Witt.
I think everybody is thinking about their health and safety. I think that's the priority, and I think UNH has done a wonderful job making it a priority for staff, for faculty, for students, and making sure people feel comfortable being on campus and being in these situations. So, the thing that brings me most comfort is that, I walk around UNH and I see all the students and student athletes, the coaches, the professors, everybody's wearing their mask. Everybody's doing, for the most part, what they're supposed to be doing. And that brings comfort. So, I think we have to trust one another as people. And, when I came to UNH, I always knew it was a great place, but what really makes UNH special is the people. And so trusting the folks around here is pretty easy. And so, we rely on one another and each other's strength, and we'll get through it.
Thank you. Coach Mack.
Well, I don't know where you were going with the age thing, Mike, but it's a topic of discussion with our staff. We have two coaches, both that are 60. I'm going to be 65 in October, and John Lyons, my defensive coordinator, is over 65. I think Hillary hit it right on the head. What our university's been doing with the testing programs, with the protocols, with the phasing in of everything that we're doing between practices, between workouts, between being in the buildings, and all the things that are doing, the precautions that we've taken have worked so far, knock on wood. And, we have some coaches that I have 3 coaches that have young babies. And so, we have been getting tested once a week as coaches. Our athletes have been getting tested twice a week as student athletes. And, there are answers to our questions about, is it safe to come to work? And again, our kids, and I'm looking at it from the student athlete's point right now, Mike, have done a terrific job of staying the course and doing the things, wearing the mask, doing the protocols and the lift and everything. It's pretty impressive how they've handled it.
Yeah, and UNH has done a great job, let's face it. And I mean, obviously we're affiliated to the school, but just based on the data, the school has done really well in terms of protecting the community. And I think we've done, frankly, a lot better than a lot of other schools. And part of that has to do with sort of the spirit of the school. I think wearing a mask, following protocol, obviously there are some exceptions to that, as we know, but by and large, the school has done exceedingly well. And that's a testament to the school, but it's also a testament to the people, whether it be the students, the staff, the faculty. It's pretty impressive. And as Coach Mack said, knock on wood, we're only in October. October's just begun. So let's hope it stays that way. How do you see sports being affected going forward in terms of the activities that you're all doing? So let's play it out. Let's say there's a vaccine. By the end of the year, it's distributed by the spring or summer. Let's just be optimistic and say by next school year, I know some of you are graduating, but you can imagine what it will be like. How do you think sports will be? How will it be different? Will we have learned from this? Will it affect how teammates interact? Will it affect recruiting? Will it affect coaching? Any thoughts on sort of this hypothetical world where there's a vaccine, the pandemic is effectively over, but it's still in our memory? Anyone want to take a shot at that?
I think from my standpoint, I'm going to have a much more fond appreciation for the opportunities that have been given to us. You know, when this all got taken away, you know, and I want to tell you, it was March 12th, was that Thursday. We had our last meeting and called off of work on the 13th, and we couldn't get back together basically until until September 1st. You know, time away, we're having Zoom calls and all those things. But what I've grown again to feel is that appreciate what the opportunity we have as coaches, the opportunities that our players have as student athletes, but also the community, UNH, you know, what a special place this is. I don't know if we're ever going back to normal, you know, whatever normal is. I don't know if we're ever going to go back to that because there's going to be precautions. But I think we're going to be very aware on how to handle situations and do things because of all the stuff that we've gone through from last March to where we are now or to where we will be in the following March.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, one thing, oftentimes as we get older, we can complain about technology a little bit at times, and we're on it a little too often. But I think, thank goodness for technology the last 6 months or so. You know, we've been able to stay in touch with our players and our staffs and the department, and our players have been able to keep in touch with each other as well. And I think that that's really helped a lot. So we're lucky that, you know, in some ways we get frustrated with technology, especially the older people, and I'll put myself in that category, Coach Mac. But it really does. I think it made a big difference. And going forward, I think, you know, what I'm hoping is, and I feel it's the truth is, you know, we will appreciate it more, and we'll be a little more resilient and understand that we can get through some of the things that we haven't thought we could in the past. And we're learning, you know, by doing right now, and we're becoming more resilient every single day.
Thank you. So 2020 has obviously been a disruptive year with the pandemic, but there's been social movements that have shifted our country in ways that many would say are needed. And Black Lives Matter and related movements have led to people feeling more free to speak about a variety of topics. How has that affected, for the student athletes, how has that affected the way you've sort of felt or perceived your college experience? Does it go to has it affected how willing you are to speak about social issues? Has it been more or less the same? Has it changed the relationship with coaches? Any thoughts?
So, well, my perspective of it is, I wouldn't say, well, obviously the world's changing, so we're constantly having to adapt. But as far as like my teammates and my coaches, I feel as though it's, with everything going on, it's only made us stronger because it's giving other teammates a chance to, you know, hear our side or just to get another view of, you know, maybe your life might be different than, you know, your teammate. So, but as far as like, you know, on campus, I never really had, me personally, I never been in a situation where like I was like racially profiled or just felt uncomfortable. Like the coaches have said, like, the people on this campus make this place. So I believe that we're taking the right steps.
Thank you, Carlos. Other views?
When you know, when thinking about a team, especially, you know, with everybody's team being more diverse, you know, especially from the football side, you know, we see a bunch of, you know, people think of us as tough, you know, mean, aggressive guys who don't talk about, and we sit back and we reflect on all these things. We talk about different experiences. We talk about other people's feelings, and I think it really, you know, it helped us become closer. It helped us unite a little more.
Thank you. So one topic that the pandemic has sort of postponed, but is coming, is the issue of name, image, and likeness that I want to make sure we cover because it's such an important aspect of college sports, and I think we should talk about it at least for a second. Name, image, and likeness is, of course, the idea that college athletes should be, according to many, and the NCAA has adopted this view, should be able to sign endorsement deals and gain from their publicity, from their recognition. Whether many college athletes will sign endorsement deals, I think that's remains to be seen. But there may be opportunities for college athletes to market themselves in ways that they currently can't do. For the student athletes here, have you been following that issue, or do you have any thoughts about your own sort of marketability, and do you feel like you should be able to license your name, image, and likeness, whether it's in a video game or whether it's for apparel, or maybe none of those, maybe just for a summer camp, being able to sponsor a summer camp? Any thoughts on that? Grace?
I personally have not been following that, but it does sound like a pretty good idea to me. I feel like, you know, we work hard to be here. We like should deserve to, you know, have our name, image, and likeness projected out there. I feel like that's a good idea to me. So.
Thank you. Elsie?
Yeah, I agree with Grace, and I think that like as female college athletes, like are put in the position to be role models for younger girls, and I think with name, image, and likeness, we could get ourselves out there more and just show girls what they can do.
Great. Thank you.
It's a pretty interesting subject, Mike. And I look at the two guys that are in this discussion group right now. I could see a guy like Matt Mashia with his dad down on Long Island running football camps. You know, he's coaching and doing it right now, but having the opportunity to use his likeliness to be part of that brochure, that name, you know, Matt Mashia, University of New Hampshire, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I could see Carlos, especially down in the Maryland, Virginia area with the DMV down there, Los, with people, you know, knowing that you've come to the University of New Hampshire and have made something for yourself. I could see him having these one-day camps and one-day things that the opportunity that was afforded to them through coming to a place like UNH on a scholarship or whatever it is to get here, you know, they got an opportunity because they learned from the people. And I think it's a win-win situation for student athletes. I think it'll be different at our level, to be honest with you, than per se at the Ohio State, Oklahoma, you know, Miami, other levels there. I think we'll have different types of likeliness problems, but you know, it's a very interesting topic, and I think the kids need it and deserve it.
Thank you, Coach Mack. So let's now turn to questions that we've received in advance of the event from our great alumni community. And I'll just begin with the first one. Any chance of football before 2021?
You know, well, no, I don't know. Before 2021, we're going to practice. If we continue to do the things that we've done. Our number one goal, Mike, was to get to October. And today was a great day around the field house for the football team because we got to October. We got through the whole month of September without a positive case. Now, the next thing for us is to get to October 12th when we have our fall ball spring practice type of thing. We won't play in any competitive games in the fall, but we will practice the stuff that we missed last spring. Hopefully, if we continue to work with our university, with the protocols, with the testing, the kids keep doing the right thing, there's an opportunity for us to play in the spring. So we'll get to 2021. It'll just be a different way of getting there from what we're doing to play, I think, you know?
Yep. Next question. Are we being too careful with college sports, especially since it involves young people and the outdoors? Anyone to Carlos?
Yeah, I would say that we're not being too careful. I would say we're doing the right thing because at the same time we still have to, you know, look out for each other. Coaches have to look out for, you know, numerous amounts of kids. So I believe that the kids' interest comes first as far as safety.
Yeah, I think you can really never be too safe. I just think it's really important that, you know, we're doing what we can to make sure everything is okay because safety is, you know, the number one priority. Is as much as we love sports, safety comes first. So I feel that this is, you know, university's doing the right, like, decisions for us as student athletes and, like, as students as a whole.
I have to look any further than, not Cal Poly, the school in Pennsylvania, one of the Division II schools there, where a young man passed away, one of their offensive linemen, Mike, and he had caught the coronavirus, got into his respiratory system. I think there's still a lot of things that are not sure exactly what's going to happen. What our university, again, has done, I keep going with our EKG programs, with our heart monitor, we're doing a great job of any kids with symptoms or any kids that have had contact that have had to go through some very strenuous, testing and everything to make sure that they're healthy. We had 4 players that couldn't start doing anything until last Saturday, and they've been here since, the 31st. So the safety is so paramount. Plus, we don't know exactly what the virus is doing to everybody.
Yeah, well, the long-term effect. I mean, we literally can't know the long-term effects because it's a new virus, right? So until that's known, there's going to be an element of risk. And even if thankfully the mortality rate appears to be much lower than what was initially feared, especially among young people, it's exceedingly low.
Yeah.
We still don't know. I mean, there have been pro athletes who have gotten it that are not yet right. And like you said, Coach Mack, just playing safe is probably the right move, even if it is frustrating for some. Next question. Can you explain why some conferences are playing this year? Is moving some of the sports to the spring an option? I mean, I could just, for at least the first part of that, clearly some conferences have made the decision that it's within their interest to move forward and play sports. We know that all of the Power 5 conferences are now playing or were planning to play football. And they've reached the conclusion that based on the available data, the health risk is low. Certainly, this is the economic value of playing can't be sort of overlooked. They have pretty massive TV contracts that I think it would be safe to assume play part of the discussion. It's a major source of revenue, but at the end of the day, there's some risk to it, and they're moving forward with it, and some other conferences are not. I don't know if anyone wants any additional thoughts on that. Okay.
It's been, you look at universities that are doing it, and from our standpoint in football, and you look at the conferences, it's the Power 5 conferences, and they have 2 things that I think makes it a lot easier for them to move forward. One, they have the unlimited testing on right now, the rapid testing results that we're going to have, and they're able to get answers within 30, 40 minutes right now of a positive test. So the safety issues are shortened because they know that the kids that have it. The second thing is, you're right. It's evident that the TV contracts and everything are going to help keep some of the programs afloat, and not just the football teams, but other programs within the university, other sports that need that help, or the money that they get from the TV contracts from ESPN, from ABC and CBS and things like that. So that plays a part in it, So unfortunately, at our level, that doesn't play much a part, to be honest with you.
How about recruiting? How are for both Coach Witt and Coach Mack? How has this affected your recruiting efforts? The pandemic. I mean, how do you evaluate prospective talent?
Well, we can't go recruiting, so we have to rely heavily on other sources and just be prepared for when we can. And there's a lot of digital opportunities for folks right now, and but in hockey, it's an indoor sport, so state to state, province to province, country to country, it's different. So a lot of kids are trying to play at the high school level right now. Some can do it more than others. So we're getting a lot of video, but right now I think the biggest thing is to take it day by day, week by week. because, if we try to think about and worry about all those things too much, then we get ahead of ourselves. So, right now I think safety, health, working with the players we have here, and being prepared for the day that it is safe to travel and recruit, and being prepared for the day it is safe to play is all we can do.
Hillary, did you get to see Grace and Elsie play in person when you recruited them?
Yes.
Okay. Most sports, Mike, have a great opportunity to do that. We don't have that great opportunity in football. Both Matt and Carlos, the first time I heard their names was when we were in a meeting room and the coaches brought back video, the huddle tape and everything like that, and said, here's Carlos Washington from here. He's a running back. And, we watched the tape and he scored a lot of touchdowns. This guy got a pretty, And then there was Matt, Masha, who was funny. We slow played Matt. He was a really good athlete. We tried to 999 him, a half scholar, this and that. Then the difference is with both these guys is when you got to meet them in person. When they came on, Matt came on his visit, but I went and visited Carlos down in Maryland and got to meet him in person and met his mom and dad. And you got a feel for the family and the guys. That's the thing that's the toughest for me when there's COVID right now. I can look at a film and try to figure out if they're a pretty good player, but we're not getting to know these kids, And so I wouldn't have smiling Carlos Washington here if I didn't go down and meet him. I just watched the tape, man, And thank God Mash's grandma could cook good chicken parm, but I wasn't thinking him. So it's a very difficult thing. The other thing, and I think that's very difficult for folks to understand, is that we're going to be able to keep our seniors in our program for another year. There's going to be an extra year of eligibility granted to us. So those 8 scholarships or 8 things that players that we're doing, we don't have a big class, but our next class that we recruit is going to be very small because of the fact that we've had to have these guys here for an extra year.
That's a great point. For Grace, Elsie, Matt, and Carlos, obviously COVID-19, this is a question from the audience, has impacted all of us, but what do you see as its impact on your college experience, and what lessons from 2020 will you carry with you after you leave UNH? Anyone want to take a shot at that? Grace.
I think it's really important to always keep a positive outlook. That's probably the main thing that I will take with me from this whole circumstance. So, yeah. And as far as changes with our team and stuff, we've been in our separate bubbles. So it's been different that way as I don't know, we haven't really gotten to meet our freshmen as well as we would have liked to maybe, but we're still doing as best as we can to incorporate them into the team culture and make sure they're good and everything too. So
great. Elsie?
I agree. I think we're just trying to make the best of every situation that we're in right now and make the right decisions. And personally, it's just made me appreciate everything that we get even more. I've always known that playing college sports is a huge privilege, but now every day that we get to go to the rink and see our teammates is just that much better after this break.
Matt?
Compared to the other student athletes, I'm in a little different of a situation with everything going on with the scholarships and being pushed to a different season to the spring, possibly. I'm forced to take a gap semester. So as everyone is still up on campus trying to be some way involved with their, other players on the team, I'm set with the same, challenges, but from 300 miles away back home in Long Island, New York. So I try to be, texting the guys as much as possible. I with the position group, especially with the freshmen, trying to say that, I know things are difficult right now. Everything you're going through is brand new and it's on a whole different level. The fact that you're not going through it with 100 other guys, that you're on it, on a smaller scale, probably to 20 to, 15 guys, but I'm trying to do my best, to be there for each and every one of those guys.
Matt, could you talk more about that? You said the gap semester. What's the sort of, how does it all plot out in terms of the remainder of your time at UNH?
So as Coach was saying that they're going to be able to keep the 8 seniors around, guys like me, Jake Bradshaw, Evan Horn, Nick Lorden, Jacob Hughes, and Jack Cavallaro. We're forced to take a gap semester on how everything worked out. So we are going to be returning to the spring for the football for the season. And as Coach said, I do plan on being back for the following fall. Everybody has that choice with eligibility if everyone's healthy being back. But with everything going on, being granted to play an additional football season, I'm just extremely thankful for.
Thank you.
We'll make that judgment after spring. If he's kept his edge.
Stay in shape. Carlos.
Yeah, everyone made great points, but just to piggyback and just throw one more point in there, I would just say another thing is learning to stay ready always, because your season can get canceled at any moment, or they can reinstall your season at any moment. So just learning to stay ready and just bringing the younger kids along, as, our seniors aren't there, like Mash said. So, my class and the class under me, we're just trying to do that job right now of stepping up to be leaders right now and bring the young guys in. So once everyone's back together, we can just gel as one and keep it moving.
Well, has fitness at all been an issue? I know your coaches are on this call, so maybe you don't. Maybe it's a hard time to ask you this, but what a lot of people have said during the pandemic, the gyms are closed in many cases, right? It's hard to work out. It's hard to do. You have a certain routine that you're used to. Maybe your eating habits have changed, possibly, if you're home a lot more. Has that been a challenge, if any of you care to acknowledge that as a hurdle at all?
I would say, yeah, it's a challenge as far as if you don't have, the resources or the equipment that you need. But, if you really want it, you're going to find a way to, get your workout in, or even if it's just bands or running, you're going to find a way to stay active. And I think our team, or our athletes in general, as far as everyone in the field, has done a great job of doing that.
Grace?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that as well. And personally, I was really fortunate because I have a home gym, a little bit of a home gym at home. So that was nice to still be able to do, weights, and then, just run outside when I can. And we didn't have dumbbells at first, though. So I would, at the beginning of quarantine, I loaded up my backpack with pretty much anything I could find that was heavy enough. And I would just, just modify and, adapt. So.
It's a way to do it. So some other questions. What's a good one here? What's going to happen in the spring? What sports will be played in the spring? That's a question. I've seen several questions that basically ask, when are all of these sports at UNH coming back? Any insight on that? I know we don't know everything yet, so maybe it's a premature question, but any from the coaches, when can we expect things back to normal?
What's normal? I can't wait.
Loaded question.
I can't wait to play Maine on March 6th in Durham or up in Morno. We'll be getting snow and hand warmers and everything ready for us. Again, we got a long way to go to get to where we're going in January and February. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, though. I think that you can see that some of the teams are moving along. I know hockey, from talking with Mike Susan today, and I stopped over and heard that the girls may even be playing the day after Christmas. Everybody's moving forward with planning the schedule, and it'll be those two sports, basketball and hockey, will be the first litmus test for our testing programs and testing protocols in Hockey East and America East. And then if we get to the CAA, to the football season, it'll be very interesting to see how the fall teams did, that played at the next level. But it's been a roller coaster, but we're excited about possibly having the opportunity in late February, March, and April to play football here.
Great.
Yes, it's March. We've just been telling our players this March, just prepare to play whenever they tell us it's time. So, no decisions have been made yet for hockey, when we're going to start, but we're preparing as a team to be ready to go whenever that day comes. And we're staying positive and hoping that it's sooner rather than later.
Great. Let's hope it's let's hope it is as soon as possible, as soon as it's safe. I've also got a question about, and this is really for anyone, the longer the pandemic goes, the more restrictions there will be on youth sports. Do you see children maybe not being as interested in sports? Will this affect their own development as athletes? Especially given we live in a world where it's so easy to be distracted by other stuff. I think we referenced that earlier with our phones, with technology, with video games. I mean, is it at all a worry that sort of the talent pool might diminish if people just aren't able to go out there at the ages where people are very impressionable?
Well, for hockey, in many places, not all, but many youth hockey is happening right now. And, it's state by state. They have different protocols and rules, but, it seems that it's a little crazy, but youth sports are going. But I think, those kids adapt differently as well. Little kids, they don't know anything different if they don't have to go in a locker room. They don't know different if they have to wear a mask on the ice. They just go and do it. I have a 3-year-old daughter who wears a mask all day at daycare and never complains. She just doesn't know any different. So I think a lot of those protocols and that are in place in a lot of states, the little kids, they just go skate for a little bit and they leave. So I think it's still happening. I do think that we won't get back to the same normal we have, but I do think we will get back to being able to live our lives, and it'll be a bump in the road, but I think it won't hurt the development of our players personally.
I agree, especially in the youth programs. I keep getting text and Facebook things from Corey Graham, one of our greatest players ever, and his 2 sons playing flag football, and then Muji Karim, telling me I got to recruit his son off of a scholarship, and he's 7 years old, 8 years old. Everybody's playing, they're having a lot of fun. I'll tell you that, Mike.
And this is another question for the coaches, and this is from the audience. How have you supported your players' mental health in terms of your role as a coach? That obviously being a coach is looking out for the well-being of your players, but the pandemic has created barriers in terms of interacting with players and student athletes. How have you looked out for their own well-being and their mental health in particular?
Well, I think on my case, in our staff's case, we're listening better, Mike. We're listening to the kids. I mean, it's hard last spring, obviously. When we got to the summer, and you talked about fitness, I thought we, as a football program, had done an unbelievable job. We were climbing to get in shape. The kids were great. And then when it got taken away in July, I could feel the wind come under people's sails. That was hard. I'd call Coach. I called Mash. I'd call Carlos. And we, to talk to them. Our assistant coaches would be talking to kids. They were down, but now that they're back, right now they're on an upswing. We're starting to do more stuff. I think all of us are more aware of that. I think this phasing in stuff that we've done, phase 1 and phase 2, where we've eased in everything, has helped everybody, including coaches. I'll tell you one thing, we've gotten lifts from the players as coaches, them around, seeing them in a hallway for the first time, seeing them on the field for the first time. They're picking the coaches up. They're picking all this up, man. It's fun to be around those guys because we have something at the end of the tunnel, again, that light,
Yeah, I think communication is the biggest part of it, and trying to when you are communicating, just get a sense how everyone's doing, and you try to do everything you can as a staff to make your players comfortable, letting you know if something's up and if they need some help. And we rely heavily on our athletic trainer as well to help out with that. But I think the biggest thing is getting to know everyone, and over time you can tell if someone's a little down or not being themselves, and you do everything you can to help them. So I couldn't be more proud of our team. They get up early for their lifts. They're excited to get there. I do think sometimes you do appreciate it more because you have been held back a little bit. So maybe maybe last year we wouldn't have been as excited to be at the field house at 6 a.m. to lift, but right now it's just the excitement to get to do it again. So I couldn't be more proud of our players, and we have a great support system with each other. And like Coach Mack said, like it's been great for me to get back to campus and see these guys. It's been a long time, and personally I really miss them all.
Thank you. This is a question for the student athletes, also from the audience. What about the prospect of playing with no one allowed in attendance? Will that be weird? How will you just sort of zone it out? Like, how do you address that?
I just think for all of us, we've been waiting so long to play that we don't care under what circumstances, as long as we get on that field. That's the only thing that matters. We talk about, Coach Mack has referenced it a couple other times. I don't care who's around. We could take the other team. We'll go play in a parking lot. We'll go play in a random field back there, and we just want to know who turns out to be the best team there. That's what we just want to compete, and we just want to show what, especially for all of us, what New Hampshire is about on that field.
Kelsey?
Yeah, I think we're all just excited to get back out there and play, and hopefully our parents and our fans still have the opportunity to watch through streams and stuff like that. We're lucky with technology today.
So you don't foresee that. Do you think you'll even notice if you're out there and literally no one is in the arena or stadium? Carlos?
I don't think you'll notice, because you're locked in, you're in game mode. Your mission is, to win the game, protect your teammates. So, it'll definitely be different, but I don't think we'll be fazed by it.
Okay.
We're going to hear each other.
That's true. We've seen, and that's been an effect in the NBA bubble, right? Where everything is audible. People have gotten in trouble because of their choice of words, because they're now audible. Right? So also for the student athletes, are you going to be a bit more cautious at practices, maybe playing games? Obviously what this is getting at, are you worried about getting the virus? Will it affect you in terms of how you compete, how you practice, all of that? Grace?
I think as long as we're following our, safety protocols, we're wearing our masks, we're, doing all we can, I feel like we'll be okay. And we'll just compete like we have been. So.
You don't think it's gonna, you're not gonna be affected by, you're not gonna practice differently. You're not gonna maybe, you're playing hockey, right? So that could, if you're worried about getting near someone, it would be a tough sport to play, just like football, just like a lot of contact sports. You kind of have to just, you can't really have that be a factor, I imagine. Yeah.
I feel like if you just keep thinking about that and keep worrying about that, it's gonna take away from our play. At a certain point, we just have to, like Carlos said, we're locked in when we get in that field, and a lot of things, leave your mind when you get out there. And I think obviously this is much bigger than a lot of other things going on, but to a certain extent, we just have to focus on the task at hand when we get in that field, and not worry about everything else that's going on.
For the coaches, this is a question from the audience. Are there any plans or timelines for fans to be back in the building, specifically student fans?
I don't have any answer for that one, Mike. I know in June, I know John Danos on our staff were talking about the spacing in the stadium, how many fans you could get in, and do it and be safe, with all this, the distance. I know they talked about the student section, how important that section has been both for football and for hockey. They're probably the liveliest folks that you have when they're there. And, again, they talked about how they would space, the Blue Monster seats, and they had a plan. But right now, I think the plan for all of us is trying to figure out how we're going to get back on that field and when. But I don't know what they're doing at the Witt Center at Hillary. But I know they had some talk there, but all of it's changed back to what we can do with getting to play the game.
Yeah, the same. try to socially distance if it's safe. And but like I've said before, it's one day at a time. You know, we want to be in there playing, and you know, hopefully it will work out where we can have fans at some point. But we'll just have to take that one day at a time.
There's a question about the incoming freshman class. Their experience is going to be very different than everyone else who has entered as freshmen. Have there been adjustments beyond the obvious of just, you know, we're in this world where there's a pandemic and there are all these restrictions? How about bringing them as part of the team? Is it harder to get them acclimated, to get them sort of used to being a member of the team? Is that at all a challenge? Maybe this is for the student athletes. So you remember when you were freshmen, how would it be like now to be a freshman? Carlos.
I'll say it would be a rough time to be a freshman right now, but I think they just honestly, I think that they're missing out on a lot of stuff that, you know, your preseason, you know, that's when you really learn your teammates, y'all gel, you guys fight together, you go to battle together, you play together, you study film together. So I think that's the time where you really gel together. So for the freshmen, they're really just, you know, trying to get to know us and we're trying to get to know them, but it's just a time thing right now, but we'll stay at it.
Matt?
You go back to preseason, especially, you know, for fall camp with us. That's like when Carlos was saying, that's when a lot of us really gelled together, because you would see, like, you walk into the locker room, there would be, you know, people taking naps all over the place, people hanging out on the couches, just talk about, you know, everything they could talk about. And that's where a lot of, you know, a lot of friendships and a lot of stuff was made right there. And our freshmen don't have that opportunity to really, you know, make those relationships or even going to do other things and just following the large pack of guys, you know, of just falling in line. You know, they're doing things on their own right now. And it's, you know, it's difficult, but we got to give them some credit too.
Yeah.
That fall camp experience you're talking about, Mike, is so different from hockey, from women's hockey, probably, you know, when you come in now. Now you have them in the summer a little bit, don't you, Hillary? Some,
Not all. Yep.
For us, that you know, when we come back around August 4th, August 5th, and we're here for 20-something days before many of the students come on campus, that's the best team bonding time we have as a football program. And they get the freshmen get to see how things are done the right way, you know, and how to do it. And it's, you know, it's great to see them bond with the upperclassmen in a meeting room, in a walkthrough on a field. You know, we've taken them swimming, you know, all those things. They're missing a lot of stuff right now, but at the same time, they're getting acclimated pretty quick in these last 3 weeks with our guys. They've done a great job of acclimating with our upperclassmen.
Yeah. This, I don't know if any of us will know the answer to this question, but if students cannot attend games as fans, will the university look to provide some kind of environment like streaming or outdoor video screens to safely provide an alternate experience? It's a good idea. I don't know if that's in the works. I don't know if anyone has any. No. Anyone?
Oh, I know our games will be streamed on the Flow Sports Network.
Okay.
The hockey games have been live streamed on our Wildcat Network, right? So the folks will have the opportunity to do it. As for a large video screen, the only one we got is in the stadium.
Yeah.
They may have to stand in College Woods, you know. But you know, they'll have something for the students.
Yeah.
I know our athletic department, and especially Mike Murphy in the media department up there, will do something special for the student athletes. I mean, for the students.
There's another question for the student athletes. You're all going to be graduating either next year or the year after. How are you preparing for post-college in the world that we're in? Internships, careers. Now, I graduated college back in the 90s. I didn't know what I wanted to do till after college. So don't feel like you have to have a plan set out. But has the pandemic affected what you're thinking about doing when college is over, or are you just still sort of riding college out and figuring things out as they go? Grace.
Well, personally, so I want to be a physical therapist when this is all over. And like over the summer and everything, I had trouble shadowing because, you know, a lot of places weren't open, but I was able to go to one spot. So hopefully gonna get an internship there. That would be really nice. But I'm planning on taking a gap year, so that will help. I mean, it should help if things will settle down, you know, after that. So that's what I'm planning on doing.
Great. Any other thoughts from our student athletes? Figuring it out as it goes. That's a fine plan too. Don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a question for Coach Mack. What's your favorite memory of playing football in 1979?
1979, my favorite memory. I was in a game, Mike, and I was and it's still part of this play is on YouTube. It was called a batted ball play against the University of Maine, and it was a tie game. And this wasn't a favorite, but it's the one I remember vividly. And they snapped the ball in the holder. He threw the ball up in the air, and the kicker punched the ball. It skirted across the field into the end zone. They dove on it, scored the winning touchdown. You know, and it was a play designed by Jack Bicknell, a guy I ended up coaching with at BC. But it was called the batted ball play. And after that play, the next year they changed the rules. And it's not allowed anymore. But 79, that's for sure.
Sounds like the tuck rule with Brady, right? In the snow game, they changed the rule on him after that too. This is like the first version of that.
And the most sickening thing of it all was it was Maine, you know. So we lost Maine, and still haven't gotten over it, Mike. You know.
Coach Witt, we're getting a lot of questions about how do you feel about the new commissioner of Hockey East, Steve Metcalf.
Really happy for Steve. You know, he's supported hockey for a really long time, and he's really done a lot for hockey at UNH, and he's been involved in women's hockey for many years. So he's got a lot of knowledge, and you know, it's not an easy job, but you know, and the poor guy took it over during a pandemic, so makes it even a little harder. But I'm really happy for him, and you know, I think he'll do a great job.
It's great. One of our own is now the commissioner of Hockey East, so it's fantastic for him and fantastic for our school. Why don't we just pivot to maybe the last question? Any parting thoughts you have as you know, what are your wishes for next year as you think about either from a coaching perspective or as a student athlete? Where do you want to see beyond the pandemic ending? But what do you want to take away from all of this when you look back years from now? Any thoughts, Coach Mack?
I want to look back and see how we overcame this. You know, how we, you know, figured it out that we could put on and play sports in a safe environment for our student athletes, and then how we responded to it as a group of young men, young ladies as well. You know, I look at it as probably of all the times in coaching for us, it's one of the most challenging times you'll ever have, trying to juggle all this stuff that's going on. I want to see our guys compete. I want to see them have success in the classroom and on the field. I want them to get that experience one more time, to cherish the experience of playing together on the field, 95 guys for 60 minutes and doing that. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to getting back to. You know, and everybody talks about winning and losing and stuff like that. I just want to get back on the field and compete with these guys and have them enjoy the experience and get the same experience I got as a player here at UNH.
Thank you. Other parting words? Coach
I would
Witt?
just echo that. You know, I'm really appreciative of everybody here at UNH, from the president to the athletic director to the coaches to the student athletes to the support staff. And we'll get through it. And we're going to get through it because we have great student athletes and great people. And, you know, if anything comes out of this for somebody who's a little older, you know, I graduated in the 90s as well, Mike. But, you know, these kids are teaching us resiliency and fighting through. And I think we got to give them a lot of credit. So really proud of them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for being part of this event. What a great event. Thank you for the audience, for the excellent questions, for our coaches, our student athletes with the very insightful responses. Little plug at the end. I want to say this weekend, Stay Homecoming, our virtual homecoming is coming up. Please participate for all the alums out there and for everyone else. We hope you join us. So thank you. And thanks to the great team for putting this together.
Good job, Mike. Thank you very much.
You got it.